What's up, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes checking in here with one of the top featherweights in the world, good friend of the show, Cub Swanson. He's also now managing and coaching fighters. Bloodline is his squad. One of his cats just got a big win. You guys are owning LFA. 3 belts, I think, altogether. Richie Miranda, the latest. You got to be a proud papa right now.
Yeah, definitely. We knew that Richie Miranda was in for a tough fight. I knew. I told him exactly the path to victory, and but I needed him to believe, and he went out there and did it. I couldn't make it that day because I've been traveling so much, and I called him that day and was like, you know what to do, and he was just so short. He didn't need any kind of pep talk. He was ready. So that made me happy. He went out there, and a bunch of the guys went out there and got the win as a team. And so yeah, I'm very proud.
I asked him this question because we just talked to him a little while ago, and I said, what would it take for Bloodline? Like, do you feel like maybe what the Fighting Nerds is doing is pretty special? Just kind of out of nowhere, we're building a squad. We have a certain belief, a certain
Yeah.
system, and now all of a sudden we're making our splash. You guys are doing that right now, like on the regional, but obviously you got a few guys in the UFC too. But it looks like pretty soon maybe you could do that, and all of a sudden Bloodline's on the map.
Yeah, I definitely see what they're doing, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. And you're right, we've been doing it on the regional scene, and I'm waiting for the guys to develop and mature enough to have that belief to take over, into the UFC and any major organization. That's the game plan, and yeah, we're definitely we've been brewing up something special here. We have people that want to be a part of it all the time, and I've had to keep it, um, the growth to a minimal, because just the way we do things, it's about a relationship. It's about the guys having a good time when they train. And, if you bring in too many people at once, it kind of messes up the flow, and you can't weed out the bad apples. So, yeah, we're doing something special, and everyone's believing in it because we've been having so much success, and it's exciting to be a part of.
Even City Kickboxing, about 3 years before the Nerds kind of had their run.
Hmm.
Is it sometimes in this sport when it comes to coaching, evolving and outfoxing some of the foxes, like your Greg Jacksons, your John Crouches, Faraz Hobbies? Like maybe if they have a certain way of doing things, what's the new way that we can capitalize and kind of sneak up to catch them off guard and beat them, at times? Like, does that work in coaching too? Is just finding new techniques and strategies like that?
For me, it's a lot simpler than you would think, but in our sport, it's the opposite of what people think. I don't believe in going hard all the time, because to me that's a lot of like egos, and you can't work your A game, or work beyond your A game when you're trying to fight somebody every day. So what I try to do is I make sure that they're all friends and they care about each other, and they're not going to try to hurt each other. So there's a safe environment, and these
Mhm.
guys, they all have egos and they all have work ethics, so they poke each other in a fun way. Like, no one wants to get lose around, but they're not willing to hurt you to win around, and that's important for growth. And so it's simple, but not a lot of people can do it because people are too worried about wins and losses, and their pride, and they don't care enough about their training partners to that we both get better.
Up until a few years ago, and it's not like the calf kick doesn't work or doesn't hurt, but I've seen it just a tad less. But what I've really seen in these last few years is the kick, the up kick in cardio and overwhelming somebody with just nonstop pace until you wear them out and break them. Not because they're not tough or they're pussies or,
Yeah.
but just because they can't keep up. Is that is that a strategy almost like it? There's some guys wearing belts because of that strategy.
Oh, for sure, because everybody has certain gifts, and you have to learn, like, how do you progress when you're redlining. Like, somebody like me, I can keep an 85 to 90% pace for a very, very long time.
Hmm.
And I can break people in that. And but if I hit my red line, I can have a dump. And so I know what level I can push. And when you understand your own body, you know how to use your body to the best of its ability. There's other people that can't go above 70%, but they can do it for a really long time. So you just kind of have to know like what you're good at, and use it against the other person. And basically whoever's making it their fight is going to have the better odds. So that's a whole strategy in itself, is making your opponent fight the fight that you've been practicing and not the one they've been practicing.
Who's up next for Bloodline? You got a good group of what I've seen, 10 to 12 athletes there. Some are already in the UFC, some are trying to work their way there. But who's up
Yeah.
next, for you before we get to your career? We're talking about you.
Well, it's actually an interesting one. I got Giga this weekend, who recently joined our team this
Oh, no
camp.
shit. That's
Yeah,
cool.
and that was a wild one because we had our history and there's no real bad blood, but me, that every time I've lost to people, it's sometimes I got an ego too. I try not to. I try to be just a good person, but when someone holds a win over you, it burns, and sometimes it's taken me a decade, sometimes longer to get over, but I do. But Giga walked into my gym humbly and asked for my help, and I didn't have a good reason to tell him no.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. And then it's been great. He's been a real good addition. It hasn't been a whole lot of time, but we've been working well, and he's been listening to little changes I've made in the way he fights to make him more fluid, and kind of keep the same pace consistently. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do. And then after that, the weekend after, we got Ricardo Diaz, who's been around for a long time and had some hiccups in his career, and then we're trying to get him a nice resurgence. And then the week after that, I got Chris Macate and Jacob Morales. And Chris Macate has just been growing and growing, and then uh, Jacob's been another guy. Rosales, he's another guy that had some hiccups in his career, and he's finally got his confidence back. He's in a good place. And so that's another thing I'm real proudful of, is getting guys to kind of have a career resurgence, and saying, no, you're not, don't let people tell you you're done. Like, if you got motivation, you're willing to make adjustments, then we just got started.
Hey, Cub, can you talk a little bit about what that process is like? Because if a guy like Giga walks into the gym and says something like that, I'm sure there's tons of wheels churning in your head. And at the same time, you kind of want to be a jerk. You want to answer him, politely. But there's a lot to consider, right? Your team, your
Mhm.
history with him. Are those types of decisions, are they made, let's go have lunch, or let's get on the mats and talk a little bit? How did all that come about, that decision process for you? And once you made it, did you ever kind of think like, oh man, maybe I messed up, or no, this is great? Like, what kind of goes through your head? Because that's an interesting situation.
Well, yeah, it's funny. When he came in and he asked, and I was like, yeah, I can help you, and I kind of had to swallow my pride at that point, and say, man, he was man enough to come up here and ask for help. I got to be man enough to be willing. So, um, it was a difficult one to start, because I go, look, I had to tell him right away, look, there's guys in here that want to beat you up, because you got to, the best of me, so you're not allowed to train anyone when I'm not here besides this person, and gave him somebody I knew would keep him safe. And I go, look, until you become friends with these guys, and they're gonna have a chip on their shoulder. They're gonna be like, oh, I want a piece of him, and it's not good for anybody. So uh he- little by little, he's around. Think people get relaxed, and then people become a part of the team. And then before we ever make it official, I kind of ask around, what are your guys' thoughts? Are you good with this person? And it's all the decisions are made by everybody in the gym. That's very important to me. I don't allow one coach to to rule everything. Everybody's in charge of their own career. We all help each other, and no voice is more important than another. So I ask, and everyone kind of gives their input. And if it's negative input, I try to make sure it's not for like a silly reason, and it's a legitimate reason. So yeah, it's just at the end of the day, we all got to be friends and we all got to have fun, and it takes the stress off of fighting, and makes it more enjoyable. And you'd be surprised at how much you can grow as a fighter when you're having fun.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that. So, from a coaching mentality, this is not like a young pup that you're molding into something. This is a guy who's already had a career, and
Mhm.
you're helping him kind of get back to where he wants to be. So, from a coaching standpoint, do you almost have to rewire your brain the way you maybe talk to him or the way you show him things versus some of the younger cats that haven't been in these situations yet?
Uh, I don't think I have to change the way I think. I may have different approaches, but ultimately it's just about everybody getting on the same page. And the reason why I say that is like if everyone's going like at an 80% pace, because now we can go longer, we spend more minutes doing the craft with the same person. You learn how to slowly break them. You learn how to recognize traps and things, that little bad habits they have. It's just hard sparring 5 minutes at a time, switch partners. That is so dumb. I'll tell any and everybody I can, stop doing that. It doesn't make any sense. Um, it teaches you how to survive 5 minutes. It doesn't teach you how to break somebody down, and that's what we're trying to do. And when you do long trainings, and um, you kind of learn how people move, you learn the tides of the fight, you learn so many different things. But if one guy comes in and he's got like a little bit of an ego and he wants to win every position, then the other person's gonna have to escalate, and then things just escalate, and then it doesn't work out. So if everyone's on the same page, then the training works. So that's it's like the main thing I'm trying to get it across to everybody.
Cub, I did want to ask you something kind of outside of MMA, but I'll tie it into MMA. Where you live is one of the biggest festivals of all time, right? Coachella. And you see how
Mhm.
that takes over the town, and how many people come in and how big of a deal it is. And then this weekend, where George and I are now, we had WrestleMania come into our stadium here, Allegiant, and that just completely, they told the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, go kick rocks. We got this for now.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they just seem to take over cities. What do you think that next evolution for mixed martial arts is, and how can they do something somewhat similar? I know they have International Fight Week, but this was another beast, man. And Coachella is another beast compared to just the big concert that's in town.
Yeah.
What do you think the
Yeah.
next evolution is for our sport, and how we can maybe match something like that? Because we see this Riyadh season and all these fights going to Saudi Arabia. I kind of like keeping things over here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like getting the fans more involved in the live events, because all the live events I've gone to that are like not UFC, they do a lot of like in the downtime. They try to interact with the fans more, and UFC doesn't do any of that. And they, I'm not saying they don't do a good job, because they do a phenomenal job, but I do feel like you could get the fans more involved at live events, make people want to be there live, because I love going to the live events, but I also get a better view from home. So, there's both. But if you want to feel the energy and feel like you're a part of it, then you want to go to the fight. And I feel like if they did a little bit more, like a thing I always said is, I feel like they should pick a fan early on the prelims out of the audience and have them do a pretend walk and have everyone cheer for them, just so people could see what it's like. Um, and it kind of encouraged people to be there from the very beginning. I think the whole like hoopla of people only showing up for the main card is just dumb, because the whole card is going to be good.
That's
I
actually a
like
pretty
that
good
idea.
idea. Yeah, reward the people that are there early, right? Only
Yeah,
they're the ones that can do this. That'd be pretty cool.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the only thing I could say that they could probably do better of is do things in for the people that are there live to entice them to want to be there live instead of watching it at home.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm trying to think of other things that I see in other events. Like they'll show the fans, but it's real quick and it's always just like but I like it when, not we don't need a kiss cam and all that, but
Yeah,
at baseball games or hockey games, they'll just show little kids dancing,
yeah.
playing along to the song or whatever,
Shooting
and here,
t-shirts out. People just,
yeah.
man, you may never wear that shirt in your life, but catching one is like, oh, I did it, I was at the PBR
Yeah,
at the Palm Springs Stadium, the Acrisure Arena, and the PBR was there, and they started dropping boxes with little parachutes all over the arena, and they said a couple of these have like a like grand prize winner inside, and so everyone was like trying to catch them, and I'm like, man, that's crazy. They just dropping stuff from the ceiling, and if people catch it, and then there's a special prize inside, they were winning like these expensive boots or hats or whatever. I thought that was cool, and which I'll be at the PBR again this Thursday in Kansas City.
oh,
Nice.
and then you're with Giga.
Yeah, yeah. So they asked me to guest coach the one of the bull riding teams. So I'm gonna be a guest coach for PBR on Thursday, and then I'll be cornering Giga on Saturday.
You know anything about that world, or are you just a guest head coach or guest coach,
No,
like you
I'm
said?
just I'm just gonna tell them to hold on real tight and do your best. That's
Mhm.
about all the advice I got. I don't have the. It'll
You
be
might
fun
want to
though.
add a little bit to that, because
Yeah,
I'm
I
pretty
was
sure they're
telling
of the
I was
opinion to
telling the
hold on tight.
people, I was like, do they have a sense of humor? Because I was only around them a little bit at the last event. They were like, for sure. I was like, it'd be funny if I was like, we had video of me like really trying to tell them how to do their job because that's what people do to us. So it would be
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Are you the
starters,
head?
you need a toothpick. For some reason, I feel like the message would come across better if you had a toothpick in your
That okay. I'm gonna take that. I
mouth.
wasn't sure about wearing a hat and everything, but a toothpick might do the job.
There you go.
Yeah, those old school boxers have those not fedora. Well, you could do a fedora, but the newspaper boy hat with a toothpick or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something.
Maybe
yeah.
a whistle or a towel around your neck or
Yeah,
are
I
you
mean,
Giga's
I
head
just want to have
coach?
fun with it. It's
Yeah,
they're doing the TKO takeover, so it's PBR, WWE, and the UFC all in one weekend in Kansas City. So it's
that's
supposed to be
cool.
a big deal. I'm fortunate to be a part of it, and yeah, I'm hoping that our bull riding team wins on Thursday, and then Giga wins on Saturday. I get emotionally invested in everybody that I work with, so I'm very excited. We had a big win with Richie on Friday. I was jumping and screaming from my house, so yeah, I'm excited to get the wins.
For Giga, you're the actual head coach, so you'll go in between and you give instruction in between rounds.
Yeah,
You're the guy.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's an interesting corner. We got me and Benny and Tyler Wombles. So we kind of had to come together a couple times for sparring and work with each other, but we all have the same goal in mind. We all want to see Giga do well. So yeah, it's gonna
Mhm.
be fun.
What's next for Cub Swanson? You fought in December on one of the funnest cards I've seen. Man, there was some violence on that one.
Yeah,
A couple cats that fucking flatline people. Buckley didn't get a bonus. You got a bonus, so I'm happy for you. You and
we'll
Quarantillo
take it.
shared fight of the night. Jacoby got one. Jacoby was on the show with us the other day. He goes, man, I fought a lot with Cub and Michael Johnson. He goes, I kind of seems like we kind of cheer for each other.
Yeah. Well, it was crazy because Michael Johnson and Jacoby and me, we all were in the same locker room, and I'm trying to think who else. There's a couple other guys. We all crushed it. And we
Yeah.
all were, when you're in a locker room with guys, you're all warming up. You want that energy, and you clap when they leave the room, and you're like, give them dap and go handle business. And then everyone kept winning. I'm like, man, this is the room tonight. This is the room, and it stayed all the way through. And then we all bonused. It was like, man, that was special. You look back at those times, and you're like, man, that was a fun little group.
Right before the holidays too. Good way to
Yeah,
end the
that
year.
always makes it nice. You start
Exactly.
thinking about all those Christmas presents. Now you're not as stressed out. I did bonus, so yeah, we could get that.
All right, Cubs. So they're booking through International Fight Week. So I think we can say you've been out the first 6 months of 2025. Was that by design, or are you waiting for the call? You didn't lay down any gloves in Tampa, so it sounds like you are still, willing to fight if you hear the right offer, I imagine.
Yeah, that's kind of by design. I'm right there. Obviously, it was funny because my wife was so mad at me because the way I said it, I was saying I was talking to her about it being my last fight, and then now everyone thinks like it was her decision, and so she's like, every fan comes up to me at the fights and is like, "Will you let him fight again?" And she's like, and I feel bad that the way it came out, but it's been a family decision for me and the family, because everybody, it's a stressful situation. You know, I'm a little bit not as nice to be around when I'm high stressed, and so my take it out on my wife, my kids. So we all kind of suffer from it a little bit, and uh, it's I've been doing it for a long time, and when is enough enough? That's kind of where I'm at, and it's not that I don't love it. I still love it. I still want to do it, but I think I'm ready to take the next chapter of my life and be a coach and give back, but I know I can still do it, and so I'm open to another fight if it's the right fight, and I get excited about it. But I'm not. I haven't gotten offered anything. I did get asked. Sean called me for a short notice fight, and I don't even remember who it was now. But I literally was eating a bowl of pozole with my family, and I was like, "Do I want to fight next week? No, I don't." But if they give me some notice and a name that excites me, I'm open to it. But um, I'm more 60-40, not fighting anymore at this point.
Oh wow. Okay. I was just about to ask, could a short notice fight almost be the way to go? Because that's less cranky time, less stress time, and
No, no,
maybe less pressure,
less
but at the
likely.
same time, you're less prepared.
Yeah, because the UFC's always known this about me. They've asked me to do a couple short notice fights, and I never like it because for me, the way I fight, my style, I need to be on point, and then no one ever remembers that kind of stuff. So if I show up on short notice, I get beat up or I don't look good. People are like, "Ah," and you're like, "Man, well, you asked me to do something that's not in easy for me, that I wasn't going to look good." So I don't like taking short notice fights because I feel like I don't give the fans what they deserve. So um, if it's a fight that excites me and I get enough notice, then I can prepare. But right now I haven't even been able to train myself because I'm coaching this Ultra program with a bunch of beginners, and then I'm coaching a bunch of pros, and then by the time I get home, I got to pick up my kids. So I'm in full dad and coach mode right now until something changes my mind.
And so 60-40 towards not fighting, if that was it in Tampa, are you at peace with that?
Yeah, that was the last thing I was telling my wife is I got this would be my 30th win. I was like trying to give myself, and then I got that, and it's like, okay, like what excuse am I going to have now to fight again? And what a way for me to finish if that is the end. Um, and then I also wanted to be sure, so that's why I don't want to do like a big emotional like in the cage retirement until I'm 100% sure, because we see it so often now. Guys say they retire and then they come back. I don't, with what I'm going to be doing and what I'm going to have responsibility wise, I don't think it's fair for me to be dangling that in front of people. Like, you have my attention. Okay, for the next 6 months, don't talk to me. I don't think that's right. So I'm trying to do things the right way. And if my last one was my last one, I'm okay with that.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think maybe that's now what I want. Whereas before I was like, give us another one, give us another one. But framing
Well,
it that way, and with you keeping busy and doing all these other things, man, just like I say, great way to end the way
it's
that fight went. It was a great
it's
fight. He had some moments too where you
yeah,
had to dig deep. It's not like it was a
yeah.
landslide W.
Well, and
Pulled
that's
out the
why I
best
got
of you.
so emotional, and I was like I got, like when I was standing over him and I was yelling because I faced a point where I was starting to break, and I thought I knew that we both are high paced people, and I was like, he thinks he's gonna break me, but I'm gonna break him, and I trained so hard, and there was a point where I was hitting my limit, and I was doubting myself, and then I in that third round, I came back and finished him, and I was standing over him like, yeah. And I was, because in my mind, I was like, you almost got me. You almost had me, but you didn't. That was like, that's why I was screaming. So it was a very emotional time, and it was an amazing win. But what I was going to say is that whole experience kind of coming full circle, because when my manager passed away is when I ended up fighting Giga. That was a very tough time for me, and he beat me in the first round, and it crushed me at that moment. I needed that win in my mind so bad, but what I realized is that I need to start figuring out life after fighting now. Everyone says don't put one foot in, one foot out. That's how you get hurt. But to me, it was like, why wouldn't I get a running start? So that way, when I do transition out of fighting, I'm not panicking and freaking out like a lot of people. And so that was very important to me, so that I wasn't panicking before fights, like putting so much into my performance every fight. Because if I already know that I got something cooking for after fighting, I'm not going to put so much pressure on myself. So that became my mentality. So it's kind of crazy that full circle Giga comes into my gym. I'm starting to train him, and and now I'm starting to take more of the coaching role. It's just it's weird how life works out, and that's something I haven't even told him.
Thanks for the time today. It's always fun to catch up with you. We learned so much because we've just seen this whole run through WEC, UFC, and now, as you start to close out your career, the young cub that we knew, now you're the vet, right? The dad and the gym
Yeah.
owner and coach and all that. So it's been a fun ride just to see your evolvement physically, mentally, all that.
Well,
So we
thank you.
appreciate you as always.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think that is one of the harder things that a lot of fans don't really see, because fans are not really thinking about it. But somebody in my position, that happens to a lot of fighters. Like, I've been at the highest level for almost 2 decades, been 18 years. And so I've transitioned into multiple different people since then. Like, I'm not the same person I was when I'm 20. I've transformed a few times. So to be able to stay relevant and at that level, and be able to have that much growth in your personal life, that's one of the things I'm most proud of. So I appreciate the acknowledgement.
Hey, by the way, this is episode 3560, 3560. And I'm pretty sure you were like on episode 2. Can you believe that? Or 2 or 3 or something. It was the first week. I know that.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
so let me say, I also give you guys that praise, because you guys been sticking it out and just doing what you love, and I can praise you for that, and I give you my appreciation for what you guys have done.
well,
Thank you.
thank you. I wasn't fishing for it. I just thought it was
No, no,
remarkable.
no, no.
We just had our 18-year anniversary last week, and so that's why I was able to, connect those dots, because I was looking at pictures from then, and I think I had posted one of me, you, Trig, and Goes in
Yeah,
20, like either when we did the 17-year. So I was looking for a different one, but I always came across young Cubs face.
Mhm.
yeah. And that was right when I was getting into WEC, and
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I was
Hey,
20,
the YouTube guys are
23.
gonna kill me. Are you okay? Neck
Oh,
injury
yeah. So
or
I just do. I got so much to do in a day. I just handle it and don't really think about it. But this morning, I had to go super early right after I dropped off my kids at school. I got a cyst removed.
Oof.
Um, and so I had like a pimple that I thought right before I fought Feely almost a year ago. And then I
Oh,
was like freaking out as a staff. And my wife's like, don't touch it, and I'm like, and then it just stayed there. And because of family history and my age, I'm like, my wife's like, go get it taken off, and just for peace of mind. And so yeah, I did that this morning, so like a couple hours ago. So I came straight to the gym, taught a
good to
couple
hear.
classes, and so yeah, I'm just always on the go. So yeah, I apologize for it.
No, no,
No,
no.
no,
I actually thought it was the glare from the window.
Yeah, I
I was
thought
like,
you
wait,
guys
is this
maybe thought
thing?
I got a neck tattoo, but no.
well, no, I thought maybe Kenda gave you a hickey and you didn't want to show it off at the gym. Back in high school, you had to wear the turtleneck or whatever.
Now I'll show it off. I'm mature enough. I can handle my wife's hickey on me.
There
There
you
you go.
go. All right, man. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate you guys.